Sup bitches? I'm reliably informed that I'm terrible at pimping my stuff. So here I am, pimping my stuff in what's hopefully an amusing way. If you want to interact with me and follow me, you can find me on Twitter at Grinosaur and at Mort_post for official announcements.
So a quick roundup of some of the things that are being talked about a lot in the gaming community right now. Let's start with Mr. Garibay. Look, we don't like being dogpiled and attacked viciously, and I feel that some people are kind of crossing the line into doing that with him. He's the guy who's been saying that everyone should play 5e. If you're not playing 5e D&D, it's a waste. And yeah, some of his comments are provocative, some of them are patronising. I think his mistake is in thinking it's the D&D hobby rather than the role-playing hobby. And I already said that I didn't start with Dungeons and Dragons. I think less people in the UK started with D&D. There are other options out there. All the positive things that he attributes to Dungeons and Dragons are actually positive things about the role-playing hobby as a whole. There are other games, different games appeal to different people. Without those different games, there are people who wouldn't be involved or wouldn't still be involved in the role-playing hobby, and therefore getting all the positive sorts of things out of it that he talks about. And it can be a very inspiring hobby. He's right about those things. It inspires you to read, it inspires you to explore history, and outside of D&D, it can encourage you to explore cosmology, astronomy, ways of telling stories, different genres, the huge back catalogues of inspirations that you can find all over the place. So, there are positives. It does encourage reading. It can provide a structured environment for people on the spectrum to develop ways of socialising with others. A lot of the positive things that he says are true, but you shouldn't really overemphasize them, because if anything is going to kill a hobby, it is presenting it as educational, as worthy, as wholesome, And there are more games in heaven and earth than I dreamt of in Garibay's philosophy. And the hobby overall, the role-playing hobby, not the Dungeons and Dragons hobby, would be intellectually impoverished if everything was just done for one game. And this is also true for older editions, which seems to be his major beef. So there are things about his thesis which are correct. The positive impact of role-playing games, how it can lift people out of intellectual ghettos and so on. That's all true, but there's a danger in overemphasizing it, and there's a lot of damage that can be done by insisting on one true wayism. So maybe lay off on some of the attacks, ignore some of the hyperbole, and engage with the positive side of what he is saying more. But that's just me being a hippie idealist and setting myself up for disappointment again, I suppose. The second thing I wanted to talk about was Thaco the Clown. Now, I reviewed Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I don't think I mentioned it, but I don't care. It probably is a bit of a dig, but and that is hypocritical of them. But the rest of us can't say, grow thicker skin or learn to take a joke or any of the rest of it if we throw a fit at the most mild, stupid and poorly executed of ribbings sent in our direction, right? They shouldn't be doing it because it's also hypocritical for them to punch down as they see it. But yeah, I mean, we shouldn't care. Why do you care? It's hypocritical to care or to feel particularly stung. Of all the Wizards products so far, Wild Beyond the Witchlight is not for us, shall we say? Though I think it would have been potentially good under a different system. But that's beside the point. Thaco the Clown, I don't care. Neither should you. And it's an opportunity to take the piss back against them, and it's something to point at when they shriek and start rocking backwards and forwards. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the Paizo unionization. For you don't know, the people who work for Paizo, that company, that relatively big role-playing company, though less so lately, who makes Pathfinder and Starfinder, some of the workers there have decided to unionize. I'm in favour of unions. I'm in favour of collective bargaining. As a general concept, right? And clearly there are some problems there, though I'm not sure how real or genuine those problems are, given the person who brought them to light, who I'm not going to give any more oxygen of publicity. But this is a hobby industry. People do it for fun. People are willing to do it for the reward of doing it, rather than anything else. Margins are extremely small in the tabletop industry, such as it is. So there are plenty of people who are willing to work for the relatively small amount of money that is available. And Paizo is shrinking. Some of their big projects have fallen through, like the MMO they were working on and so on. They're finding it hard to have an identity other than the alternative to mainline Dungeons and Dragons. I think that is the issue. They're not really an old school company. They haven't marketed themselves that way. They've got entangled in a lot of the problems that have plagued the industry and so on. But at the end of the day, people are willing to work for peanuts, and it's an industry that can only really afford to pay peanuts for the most part, right? Once you've taken reinvestment and so on into account. So while a union is hypothetically a good idea overall in most industries and so on, the idea of a union is that you then have leverage for collective bargaining. But in this situation, you don't really have leverage, because there are plenty of people ready and willing to step into your shoes and work for peanuts. The peanuts that are pretty much all that is available. So I don't think this is going to work. I mean, there are some aspects of unionization which can be good. If you pay union dues, those might then be available to you if you get injured or hurt or can't work for whatever reason, or it provides an extra level of insurance for people, which in an industry like ours is scant. But if you're looking to use your union to leverage power against the company, I think you're shit out of luck, and you're fooling yourself if you think you can improve anything, because even collectively you really don't have any leverage, and there really isn't much room on the part of companies in the tabletop role-playing space to budge, just because it is such a small margin industry that people do for the love of it. You're better off departing and starting your own mini companies or producing indie RPGs and hustling than you are trying to strong-arm an employer in the RPG space. Because, like I say, they've just really got no wiggle room. So I am for unions. There are positive things that can emerge from this in terms of relative job security, benefits, insurance, and so on that you can collectively do through the union, or more like a mutual aid society. But you don't have any leverage. There are legions of fans who produce oodles of material for free and are going to be perfectly willing to take your place if you try and use your collective bargaining in a space where there's no room for the employer to compromise or to make anything better for you. So that's the problem. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it, but maybe that's just my leftiness coming out. I don't know. Anyway, saying.
Tal, friend, and welcome to Gore. Savage and beautiful, John Norman's Gorean saga is brought to life in the Tales of Gore role-playing game and its companion world book, World of Gore. Take flight on a tarn, luxuriate in the bathhouses of Ar, pit your steel against the deadly Kuri, best your enemies and place them in your collar. Tales of Gore uses the D6 system, perfect for both new and old players. You can purchase it from Amazon, RPG Now, or Lulu.com. Ta Sada Gore.
Monster misbehaving, planets needing saving, situations graven, I'll form the head. The enemy is clever, we're smaller but whatever. When we put it together, I'll form the head. Y'all can do the treading, swing energy machete. If combination's ready, I'll form the head. I'll form the head. I'll form the head. I'll form.
And this is not a time to be dismayed. This is punk rock time. This is what Joe Strummer trained you for. It is now time to go. You're a good person. That means more now than ever.